Be fruitful. Multiply. Be fruitful. Fill the earth.
Welcome to the wonderful world of starfish. God has designed this animal, the starfish, in a most unusual way. And one of the ways is that He has given this animal an ability to reproduce and multiply like hardly any other animals. For example, if you would take a spider, which you shouldn't do, and cut away a leg, it will somehow still limp ahead and reach its goal. But if you cut away its head, it will be dead. If you do the same thing with an octopus and cut away a leg, the leg actually, unlike the spider, will grow back, which is an amazing feat of nature. But if you take a starfish and cut away a leg, not only does the leg grow back, but the little piece of the leg that you have cut out would have the ability to grow back into an entirely new animal, a new starfish, which means the animal can hardly destroy the animal because it's a flat-structured neural network where the DNA of the entire animal is in every cell. Now, what does this have to do with the commission of Jesus to make disciples of all nations? Because this is the task that Jesus has given for all of us. Now, first of all, you may want to know who I am. My name is Wolfgang Simson, and I'm captivated basically by three questions. The first question is, what if the church would go back to the original blueprint and the New Testament original, the way that God has designed the church in the first place? And the second question is, what if those who follow Christ would start to behave economically in the same way that Jesus Christ lived and taught and the early church modeled it? And thirdly, what if the followers of Jesus Christ would listen to their master and king in the same way that the animals like birds and fish have a unique ability to swim or fly in a synchronized way, almost like they're listening to the same music and follow the same rhythm and therefore be one body. So these are the things that have captivated my imagination and allow me to be your tour guide on discovery of things that maybe you have found hard to believe or next to impossible. And you will find out that what God is doing around the world today, without asking anybody's permission, basically verifies what Jesus said long before. What is impossible for men is possible with God. And we want to look at this from 5 different angles. Thank God this starfish has also 5 legs. The first one that we want to look at is there is a new Reformation in the making. And this Reformation is bigger than the Reformation of Martin Luther in scope, in size, in depth. And the second thing is that what is globally discovered is the gospel of the kingdom. The kingdom was what Jesus preached about all the time, but someone has said what came was the church. So there's a global rediscovery of the kingdom, and therefore also a rediscovery of the gospel of the kingdom that many people have never heard. And thirdly, in the kingdom there are building principles. And one of the building principles is that the household of God is established on the foundation of apostles and prophets. Whereby most churches that we know is established on the foundation of traditions, of pastors, of teachers, and the treasury. And fourthly, there are 2 economic systems in this world. A worldly system, a Babylonian system, and an economic system of the kingdom. I call it kingdom economics. And it's an amazing and revolutionary economic system that is better than communism and better than capitalism. And lastly, we will look into what is possible if those who follow Christ align themselves with their own king and master and with each other. And we will find out that very suddenly impossible things will become possible. And even the mission that Jesus gave all of us to make disciples of all people groups of this whole planet will be reachable in an amazing short time. Let us go straight into the first subject, a new Reformation in the making. if you would hear this for the very first time, you would say, what Reformation? Why is it a Reformation? Who is the Martin Luther of today? And you would say, like, where are the theses on which church door that we would have to read and find out about, isn't it? Well, I would tell you that in today's Reformation, it is not just one single Martin Luther or Calvin or Zwingli who are like the big spokespersons of God, the big brother anointed that has the good news for the brothers who are not so anointed. It is something like a frequency of the Holy Spirit that you can tune in. Those who hear what the Spirit has to say will hear the same things. And it's therefore an amazing movement that doesn't anymore come from individual voices alone. It is being heard at the same time by many people around the world. Now, it's almost 500 years since we had the last Reformation. So we are not used to much Reformations anymore. And it's almost that we have become so used to the Reformed churches and the Reformed ideas that today, if you want to suggest change, maybe the biggest hindrance and question marks would actually come from the last churches who experienced Reformation. And therefore, it is sometimes so that many have this mindset, something must happen, but nothing should change. And in that way, we like a little bit of renewal and a little bit of cosmetic change here or there, a little new program, a little bit excitement, but please not too much. Please, God, do not disturb the church too much. But what is happening is that God does not ask permission from people who are asking these kind of questions. He's doing it anyway. And the interesting thing is he's doing it now in areas that usually from our perspective, specifically in the West, we don't really look at. We would look at ourselves because we think we are important. Our churches are important. Our theologies are important. But what God is doing in other places of the world, like in China, in India, in Vietnam, in Myanmar, in the Middle East, we would not even recognize as God doing something new, because it would be so different. Many people are sensing something in their spirit when they want to be good Christians, good followers of Christ, and they go dutifully to their church services of all kinds. They somehow recognize that something isn't quite right. Something is missing. And it's almost like in the film Matrix. Have you seen the film Matrix? Anybody seen that? You remember when they talk about the Matrix, it's the world pulled over your eyes. It's an unreal world, and it is like a splinter in your brain that slowly drives you mad, that always asks these nagging questions. Is there something else? Is there something I don't know? Because this cannot be it. This cannot be possibly all that God has to offer. A predictable church service of holy people who meet at a quite unholy hour in a holy building in holy clothes and listen to a holy man against an unholy fee, and they call it church. So God is doing something far beyond that. And so many people are nowadays sensing that almost the Holy Spirit is asking them to follow Him, but strangely enough, it seems that many people experience that the Holy Spirit is not leading them into the church systems, but leads them outside of the church systems. And that is a very strange thought. Many people feel like they betray the system. They betray mama and papa. They betray the old system they have been brought up with. And nowadays I find that we have a lot of passionate followers of Jesus Christ who are very bad churchgoers. There is even a term that someone has coined. It's called OOCC. And that means out of church Christians. People who have been led by the Holy Spirit to go outside the camp, so to speak, and find Jesus outside. What a strange thought. Do you remember Revelation 3:20 when it says Jesus knocks at the door and He stands outside? Maybe He has been knocking for a long time outside, and even if we open up, He may not want to come in. We may have to go out. So those who are out may be in, and those who are in may be out. Strange thought it is. Let me tell you a few stories. I remember that living in India, I looked at the Indian situation where a lot of Western imported church and mission work was being done. And for some reason, with a lot of effort and a lot of money, not that much was happening. Still, the percentage of Christians in India was 2.4%. And I was wondering whether somebody would understand there was a miscommunication